Carl Jung said, "Awaken and shine your light for others to follow. The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." This is an invitation to move differently in the world, to operate from a place of deep knowing and alignment. I'm Adrienne McDonald, and welcome to the Source Code Podcast. Let's dive in. Hello, beautiful humans, and welcome back, or welcome if it's your first time. Grab your favorite beverage and let's see what the muse has for us. I have been thinking about leadership. I've also been thinking about struggle. I've been thinking about what self-leadership looks like. Before we jump into that, though, there's a lot of talk about leadership right now, probably because we and several other countries are in election years. And this week I've been contemplating Gate 31 in the Gene Keys, and the shadow of that is arrogance, and the gift is leadership. And the city is humility. And in the Gene Keys books, Richard wrote that animals choose their leaders instinctively based on an alpha gene, which marks it as a leader. Whereas humans, the alpha gene is present in the one who can best influence or manipulate others with language. That the mass consciousness, as we've seen, is programmed to be led, but has no idea how to pick a leader. Most of the time, the mass consciousness will choose leaders not for their policies or beliefs, but for their style. And I was thinking about that. I was like, I believe that when you operate from a place of being deeply rooted within yourself, there's a shift because you sort of see that broader perspective. And Richard explains when we move on from that need of personal recognition or control, which is that the arrogance, that shadow frequency, to the leadership where the true leadership, where the focus is primarily to use those talents of language to influence and help others break free of whatever they need to be break free of. And within that, there's humility. There's a lot of humility. And the 31 gate is also interesting because it has the pulse of the collective patterns of humanity. And it's been interesting to look at that this week and over the next week and see as an observer what patterns are that they're showing themselves. And I always find that interesting during election cycles. But back to you. There was a teaching my old mentor used to do where he would draw a circle and then he'd draw a couple of lines like he was cutting a piece of pie out of the circle. And in that small piece of the pie was your comfort zone where certainty lived, where you felt safe. And the rest of the pie was like possibility and where your desires lived and where your potential lived, but it was also uncertain. And the general conversation was to have you step over the line into the unknown to realize your potential and the dreams you have. He called the line that you had to step over the struggle line. And some people would step over the line and some people wouldn't. And today I actually want to talk about what it's like to stand on the struggle line and not move. Because the conversations I've had over the past week or so, struggle and stuck and stagnation seem to be coming up. And it's that place where you're uncomfortable enough that you can't go back to the way things were, but you aren't comfortable enough to make the leap of faith. So you just stand or dance on the struggle line. You haven't stepped over it. You decided to step on it. And that is the absolute worst place to be on that pie. And I have spent a lot of time standing on the struggle line. I have spent a lot of money trying to get off the struggle line. And I've spent a lot of time and energy trying to figure out why I couldn't move myself off of it. It was really interesting because I talked to someone I haven't not talked to in a very, very long time. He was asking me some questions, and it was really interesting that this feeling came up from deep within myself, and I realized I had left the struggle line from the time the last that I talked to him behind, and I had not been on it in a very, very long time. And I was like, gosh. And the more I struggled to get off of it, it seemed like the worse, that like it was like quicksand to me. And I've come to realize I believe it's a like self-sabotage. I mean, there's many reasons why you self-sabotage. But I think that's really like the crust of being stuck on the the struggle line. I feel like the most common reasons that we self-sabotage are fear of failure. People often fear failing so much that they'll undermine their own efforts. And by sabotaging themselves, they avoid potential failure and the accompanying disappointment and people projecting on them. And I feel like they're, protecting self-esteem from the blow of not succeeding, right? So the fear of success also can be just as powerful as the fear of failure. And I've experienced this one, that success would bring more expectations, more responsibility, more visibility. And some people just try to avoid those pressures and sabotage themselves so that they don't have to deal with them. Low self-esteem. Individuals with low self-esteem may feel unworthy of success and happiness. And this can lead them to engage in behaviors that are very destructive and prevent them from achieving their goals, reinforcing that negative self-image cycle. And it's a perpetual cycle of self-sabotage. Unresolved trauma. Past trauma or negative experience can leave those scars in there, and if those are unresolved, then those, again, distractions, addictions, just destructive behaviors of any kind. And again, that reinforces those internal beliefs about themselves and the world, because that's a trust issue as well. But I think all four of those can collapse into really the bigger number 5, which is they just don't know themselves. People prefer the familiarity of current circumstances, even if they're unhappy or unfulfilled, because of their conditioning, because of other people's expectations. In human design, we talk about deconditioning, and we talk about where the areas you might be more conditioned than others, i.e. those open centers or undefined centers. And change is uncomfortable, right? It can be challenging. And self-sabotage can be a way of staying with the familiar, managing others' expectations maybe, avoiding or distracting. But at the end of the day, it's about giving the power away. When I was stuck on the struggle line, that's what I had done. I had given away my power and my authority. I still wanted to people please, yet there was also this like weird resistance to doing the things I was being told to do, that people were saying this would get you off the struggle line if you did this. And I think that when people go from program to program, to coach, and they don't know themselves very well, and they're not operating from their own authority, their own strategy, they tend to get stuck in this cycle. Because if you're not operating from that, what worked for that person may not work for you. But if you know yourself really well, if you're really rooted in your own strategy and authority, you can look at something and go, you know what? That is fantastic. That is not for me. This is this is exactly what I need, and get very, very specific. Otherwise, you might be just getting more and more frustrated, or more bitter, more resentful, staying on that struggle line. Now, there are many different paths and modalities to getting off the struggle line. If you have been listening to me, I like to use all the tools in my toolbox, but they do all have one theme. All of them do. And that is that you are the authority of you. I'm not a guru, I'm a guide. That's it. I can give you some things to think about. And today I'm going to give you some things to think about by human design type and profile that could be keeping you on the struggle line. So give it some thought. Like, am I doing this? Is this within my experience? Now, if you have not already, you can access your free chart and report at my website, and I'll put that in the show notes. If you want to go deeper, if you want to get more specific, there's also a link in the show notes that I'll put in there to schedule a reading. And let's go. All right, so manifestors, ignoring your need for rest. Manifestors have bursts of creative energy followed by periods of rest. You may be self-sabotaging by pushing yourself too hard, ignoring your need for downtime. It's going to lead to burnout, decreased productivity, or you're asking for permission all the time, which manifestors, you don't really need to do. You just inform the people around you. Generators, you're saying yes to the wrong things. Now, I'm a generator, so I get this like deep within my soul. Generators thrive when you respond to the right opportunities that light you up. You may self-sabotage by saying yes to things that really don't excite you. Hello, people pleasers. You're bad about doing this. I know I was. It leads to frustration and a sense of being stuck in unfulfilling situations. And that's just the frustration. And I still occasionally do this. So it's a process. That's why they call it an experiment. Manifesting generators, spreading yourself too thin. Manifesting generators have a lot of interest and a lot of energy. Now, you may be self-sabotaging by taking on too many projects at once. You gotta prioritize there, because that's going to lead you to scattered energy and incomplete tasks, and then you get overwhelmed, and then nothing is effective. Then you just want to sit on the couch and watch Netflix. Projectors, overworking and not waiting for recognition. And that's more not being with the right people. Projectors are designed to guide others and really should not be wasting their time with people that don't get you. You may be self-sabotaging by overworking in an attempt to prove yourself. And if you get into a situation you feel like you're having to prove yourself, you need to leave. Because in the right environment, you're not going to feel that way. It's going to feel very welcoming. People are going to be asking you for your opinion. The alternative to that, and I think a lot of projectors I know, because they're not the vast population is generators and mani-gens. Projectors can't work like generators, and when they do, almost always burnout is right around the corner. So that would be a self-sabotaging thing. Just be in the right environment with the right people. Reflectors, not honoring your need for space and time to make decisions. Reflectors are highly sensitive to their environment. So they need a lot of time to make major decisions. In traditional human design, it's a lunar cycle that's 28 days. In practical sense, what I'm told from the projectors that I've listened to is that it could be 2 weeks, it could be 4 days, but when they know, they know. And being really aware of what their process is and how knowing comes to them. Now, in human design, each profile line, let's go through those for self-sabotaging ways. Line 1, You knew I was going to say it. Analysis paralysis. Line 1, you guys love you some data. You really crave a strong foundation of knowledge and security. But you may self-sabotage by over-researching, over-analyzing, delaying action, missing those opportunities because you just don't feel like you're prepared a lot, or prepared enough, I should say. And when you're on the struggle line, I don't think you ever feel like you're prepared enough. So that is the quicksand of that. Line 2, avoiding collaboration. Now, line 2, individuals, you need your alone time. You need to be able to recharge and thrive in your natural talents, like doing your thing. But you also may be self-sabotaging by isolating yourself too much, avoiding collaboration or getting that external input, because people are going to recognize your talents and be able to pull them out a lot quicker. And by isolating yourself, you're avoiding growth and opportunities. Line 3, where my line 3's at? I'm a line 3. A classic fear of making mistakes. Now, line 3s learn through trial and error. We have to get our hands on it. And you may self-sabotage by being overly cautious or avoiding experimentation due to being made fun of, making mistakes, and that could hinder your development and growth. Line 4, sticking to a small circle. Now, line 4 individuals are natural networkers. They thrive through their connections. They want those deeper relationships. And you may self-sabotage by getting comfortable with a small social circle and then not moving out of it because you may fear rejection, or it's I don't know if I want to go through the work to expand my network. The thing is, you're such a natural at it, it probably wouldn't take much effort, but you're missing out on new opportunities and relationships when you stick to a small circle. Line 5, I'm also a line 5, taking on too much responsibility. Line 5 individuals are problem solvers and often seen as natural problem solvers, natural leaders. And you may self-sabotage by taking too much on or trying to fix everybody's problems. And that, of course, leads to burnout and resentment and frustration. So is this my problem to solve? Line 6 is the role model. And line 6, impatient with your journey. Line 6s go through very distinctive life stages and are meant to gradually step into their role as role models. And remember, if you're line 6 and you're under the age of 50, you're still operating like a line 3. You're still experimenting. You're still, getting in there, observing what's working, observing what's not working. And you may self-sabotage by being impatient with your process and feeling disillusioned or inadequate when it's going to take time for you to have the impact that you want to have. Because you're just going to just continue to develop deeper and deeper wisdom. So those are the ones for human design. There is an oracle deck that I love by Colette Baron Reed and Alberto Villoldo. I really hope I'm saying his name right. Called the Shaman's Dream. And there's a card in there called the Crossing. It's initiation. And I feel like when you're dancing on the struggle line, for whatever reason it is, the universe is offering you an invitation to initiation, to cross over into a new way of being. And so I'm going to end today's episode by reading the passage from the guidebook of that oracle card. And again, it's called The Crossing, which is a rite of passage, an initiation. You have come to stand on one side of the river. The opposite bank leads into the darkness of the eternal cave, where the old dies and then is born again. This is a place where time is forgotten and the seasons cease their dance and stand still, as if in a temporary repose. You must cross the river now, honoring and respecting this transition, for it's time to say goodbye to your old ways of navigating the world. Do not be afraid. You have come to the edge of the river because you are ready. You're ready to let go of what doesn't serve you and all the ways you kept yourself from truly living. Intimacy requires vulnerability and truth. Can you strip away the mask and the barriers of false strength to discover what you're really made of? Step into the boat waiting for you. Let it carry you into the cave where the shadows are waiting to be illuminated so that you can be born again into the world without denial or artifice. Making the crossing is a beautiful, powerful act of the highest love. As always, thanks for listening. If you found this helpful, please share the episode out, or if you feel so inclined, leave a review. And remember to find beauty every day and seek the magic in the mundane. Thank you for listening to the Source Code Podcast. If you found this episode insightful and feel moved to, please leave a review and share it out with those you believe will find it helpful. You can check out my website for more information at www.adrianmcdonald.com. And for more of my more regular musings, connect with me on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and LinkedIn. I hope you have a beautiful week.